Good morning, everyone. This is Table for Two with Naomi Nachman on the Nachum Segal Network. I am so excited to be in my own house. Today is going to be our Shabbos Project Challah Bake Week right here in Long Island, and I'm going to be joined by my amazing Five Towns foodie friends, and we hope that you will join us baking challah for this amazing Shabbos Project weekend. I don't know if you've already been to challah bakes, but we thought we would do one for Table for Two like we did last year, right here in Woodmere. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Naomi Nachman. I'm about all the food. Yeah, they all know the lineup. I love shopping for food, cooking food, eating at restaurants, anything food related. I'm a kosher personal chef. I'm a cookbook author. I remember to add that in this time. I always forget to add that in. Anytime you don't feel like cooking, you can give me a call. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube channel on the Nachum Segal Net, all the outlets. So, but let this make a conversation. Anything you want to share or that you've made, email me, naomi@nachumsegal.com. I love hearing from everyone, and thank you for everyone who posts and tags me on Facebook when they've made something from my book or they've heard something from my show. So thanks very much. It has been an incredible couple of weeks. So I'm very glad to be back in the studio. Well, the studio is now my house, and I'm joined by my amazing friends. In fact, my parents are here in the studio audience. Miriam and Jack Steen from Sydney, Australia are joining us right here in Woodmere today. So I've got Naomi Ross, as I said, Elisheva Tates. You can follow them on their platforms as well. We're going to be talking to everyone. That's what she made. And Kayla Kay, the most unbelievable challah baker in the Five Towns and beyond. Everyone here is an amazing cook and baker, and everyone in our audience also cooks and bakes, and we love hearing and sharing from everyone. But I'd like to talk to Naomi Ross. We have known each other a long time. We both moved to Woodmere about the same time. It's on. It's good. Okay.
Is it good?
I think we both moved here around the same time, right?
You know what? This month, it's 13 years I've been in Woodmere.
Okay, so I'm here a little bit longer. I'm 14 years, so.
I didn't realize you had just moved at that time.
Yeah, a little. I think this past Shavuos was 14 years.
Wow.
So.
It's weird when all of a sudden, like, you realize you've watched all your neighbors' kids growing up.
Right. And you've gone to their kids' bar mitzvahs and then weddings. Yeah.
But it's been a long ride.
It's been a long ride.
We met at the JCC when you had started the program.
The culinary school.
Yeah.
Way back when. That's how one of the first things I did was the culinary school at the JCC here in the Five Towns. And then, everything. The rest is history. But yeah. So Naomi why don't you tell everyone what you do?
So my name is Naomi Ross. My website is koshercookingconcepts.com. I also am a personnel chef, but primarily I do cooking instruction. I teach lots of cooking classes. I do a lot of cooking education with kids, with adults, all different, even special needs.
That's so amazing that you do that.
It's really cool. I only just started doing that this past year, but it's been really rewarding.
Where have you been doing that?
I have a private client that I teach that is very very special needs in terms of. It's actually a little bit even a foray for me into changing how I think about teaching, because I have to focus on her like OT issues and things like that she can and can't do. This past year, I had a really cool opportunity to teach deaf children at a school for the deaf. It's
that's
cool.
Amazing.
It's cool.
I love that.
It's been like a whole different experience, and I used to mostly just teach like adults and I would say young marrieds. I started off by teaching new challahs. That's how I started.
Right.
How I started.
I remember.
My whole start into teaching cooking classes, which really started me off, was that I started a course called Cooking for Challahs, and it was a whole course just basically teaching new brides how to manage their kitchens, baking and cooking basics.
You started that off in Boston, right?
In Boston.
Way before any of the other cookbooks came out.
And I tried to bring a lot of different like nice Torah ideas into it, and some nice hashkafic ideas into it. And then from there, we all get our starts, and then it starts going. So I do a lot of teaching still, and I teach for the Kosher Culinary Center in Brooklyn as well as privately.
We love Avram Wiseman and his team over there. We did a show from culinary school.
It's been very, very fun for me. And then my other hat, as you know, is a food writer. I do a lot of food writing. I write regularly for a lot of years for Bina Magazine, Joy of Kosher Magazine, and on my own blog. So
Naomi's a great writer. I can talk and talk and talk, but I cannot write, and Naomi's a really talented writer.
Well, that's good, because I can't talk and talk, but I can write. So
yeah, so that's what the two Naomis, we fit together. Okay, so Naomi, as we talk about teaching and baking, and so teach us about baking, teach us about challah. Why and how did this become a woman's mitzvah?
It's really amazing to see, I should say it's been almost like a resurrected mitzvah in some ways. If you would have spoken to any of our mothers 25, I should say probably 30 years ago, right? No one's mother was making challah. Everyone bought from the bakery.
Right, my mother's an amazing cook.
Yeah.
She's an unbelievable cook and baker.
But it wasn't a thing.
We bought our challah.
It wasn't a thing, and I feel like there's been, there are always, it's not a new mitzvah. We've had this mitzvah for a long time, but I feel like in the past, say 10 to 15 years, there's been this resurgence of excitement about making challah and doing the mitzvah of challah, and there's a lot of good reasons for it. There's, challah is one of the 3 mitzvahs connected to women. We, on Friday night, after Kabbalat Shabbat in shul, like when you're in shul, there's a Mishnah that is quoted that says that there are 3 mitzvos that are associated with women, for which actually, if a woman is so careless with its observance, it could actually result in childlessness. So it's pretty
serious.
That's pretty serious strong
stuff.
And I don't just mean, she forgot, but really the Mishnah means someone who really, really casts it away. But that's challah, nida meaning the laws of family purity, and lighting Shabbos candles. So those 3 mitzvos are uniquely tied to women, and they all in their own way create what we call an eit ratzon, like an opportune time for spiritual connecting and for prayer with God. So challah in particular, this is a process that combines the physical development of food with connecting back to the Creator. So there's so much written, and I've learned a lot about it over the years as I've taught challah classes and gone to challah workshops. But there is an idea that, challah was the first complex food, right? That they call challah, that Adam was called challah of the world, that God created man, and he was like the first challah.
The doughboy. He's the doughboy. Adam, the original doughboy. Move over, Pillsbury.
So
I make a joke like that.
God created and formed him out of the earth, and in the same way we're shaping our challah. What does this really mean, though, right? So for us, what we take from it is that at the time that God created man, right? So before the sin of Chava, before the downfall of man, so to speak,
which was on day
8 of
creation or something, right?
And ever since, everything's been blamed on the woman ever since.
Yeah, it's always the mother's fault. That's what I always say, right? It's always the mother's fault.
Yeah. So before that, man subsisted on simplex foods, right? After this, the chait, so Hashem said it's not enough, right? All of a sudden, he cast Adam, he cast man out of the garden, and he said, that's not enough. You're going to now, work by the sweat of your brow, and you have to harp and reap, your food. You have to plant in the land, and you have to reap the harvest, and it's work. Okay, and you're going to create a food that is no longer simplex. You're going to create a food that's complex, and it has to be a food that you can subsist on. That's not just physical in nature, but that's also spiritual in nature. And what is that food? That food is going to be bread, right? They call bread the staff of life. That bread's going to be challah. What's challah? It's a complex food that man can subsist on spiritually and physically. Why? Because he has to partner with God in order to create it, right? It's not enough to grow the wheat. You grow the wheat, you got wheat berries. In order to make challah, you have to not only raise that wheat and harvest it, and then you have to grind it into flour. You have to develop it into a complex entity, into a bread, right? But one more step than that, you have to depend on God. You have to build your emunah. You have to build bitachon. What is emunah and bitachon? It's faith. It's a dependence. It's an understanding that everything that is coming into my home, that sustenance, is really coming from God. And so when we take challah, what are we doing? When we do the mitzvah of hafrashat challah is tithing a piece of challah. And that is not a new mitzvah. That is directly from the Torah, meaning the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, from the 5 books. We see in Parshat Shlach, it says that we should tithe a piece of the dough for the Kohanim, right, for the priests in the temple.
So is that where the braiding came from?
I'll get to the braiding.
Jumping the gun, eh?
You gotta wait. So when we get this mitzvah, what is effectively the mitzvah, right? When we take challah now, what do we do with it? We take challah, we take a portion of the dough, we make a blessing, we separate it, and we say this would have been for the Kohanim in the temple, but since we don't have the temple anymore, we burn it and we get rid of it. But essentially, what are we doing? We're saying we're taking a portion of our sustenance that we depended so greatly on God for, and we're giving it back to Him. So we learned there's a sefer called the Sefer Ohel Rachel. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful explanation in there about the essence of challah and any kind of a tithe is the idea of giving reshit, right? It says bereshit in the beginning, right? What is the reshit? A reshit is the first. It's the first. So when we take challah, what we do is we take a piece of the first outpouring, the first shefa, the first outpouring of blessing that comes into our home, and we then.
Someone's got a phone that's
something vibrating about me. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I put it on vibrate, but it's still going.
No, it has to go in airplane mode.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So when we take, what is challah? When we take the tithe of challah, we're taking that first outpouring of sustenance in our home, and we're saying, I'm giving it back to God. And what does that do? What it does is it opens up the channels of more blessing to flow into your home. That's why the Nabi's was a Yechezkel. The Nabi Yechezkel says, "Lahaniach bracha al beitacha." One who keeps the laws of tithing challah will merit blessing to rest on your home. How do you merit blessing resting on your home? Here, I finally got something to eat. I had to work so hard. I finally got it in my house, and now I'm giving it away.
Right.
So he says, if you're willing to understand that where your sustenance, where your blessing is coming from, and you're willing to accept that and to take a piece of it and say, I'm giving it back to you, Hashem. Hashem is going to open up the floodgates, and He's going to say, you're going to have more blessing in your home.
Amen.
So that is really the essence of why it's such a special mitzvah. Why specifically for women, right? Because it is in some ways mitakin. It's repairing the chet that Eve did in the Garden of Eden.
Amazing.
In that way. So
Amazing.
when you understand all these different parts, why is it an Eit Ratzon, right? Why is it a time, a very sublime, auspicious time?
Yeah.
So it's because if you use that time to tap into tefillah, into praying. So when I put my hands into my dough, I use it as a time for prayer, right? And then you're taking that special time for a mitzvah and you're using it as an opportunity to connect to God.
So really, when we're kneading our dough, we should be thinking about
kneading the dough is actually the best time to pray, because what's kneading? Lisha. What is lisha? The word lisha in Hebrew, where does it come from? Lashon, language.
Oh,
okay, so
beautiful.
That's the time.
This is why we have Naomi.
That's the time that you want to really put your tefillos in.
Amazing, so. Naomi. I have been making challah for so many years, and I've spoken with so many people, but this is a whole completely different, right?
So
never heard this before.
People always ask me.
That was beautiful, right? And we're all bakers here.
People always ask me if I use a magic mill or if I use, if I hand knead my challah. And so I always tell people, do whatever's easier for you. It's the same mitzvah.
Because you're still getting the bracha of Freshas Challah. You're
still doing the bracha of Freshas Challah. If you're using flour, right, you're still able to do the mitzvah. But personally, I always do it by hand. Why? Because it gives me extra time to get into the mitzvah.
I actually just started last Shabbos Challah project week. I started doing it by hand a lot more.
It's a good arm workout.
Yeah,
also.
it's a good arm workout. I just felt like it's a little bit more
strength.
spiritual than like pushing a machine and watch it all come together. But it's still amazing if you do it. And I would say I do it 50% of the time. Sometimes I just don't want to ship it from upstairs, my machine. But I really got into my recipe that we're going to do now. You're going to see we're going to make it by hand. But this is the one that I do 50 to 60% of the time with my machine, and I bake challah just about every week. When I can't bake challah because something's going on, I actually buy it from Kayla.
I just want to chime in that I used to make all of my challah by hand, and when you get to the point where you're making
you've got a business
or 15 or 20 batches of dough, I did switch to a machine. So,
right. Is there a machine that you would recommend just to?
I use the Bosch. It has held up very, very well for me. And
sweetheart, you're going to need a Hobart soon.
Yes, I am. I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to need
the ones that stand on.
Yep.
Around.
Oh, I'm getting ready. It's time to move out of my little home kitchen.
Enforced floors for that. I use a magic mill. It's made by Electrolux. I got mine at Sterling Electronics here on Central Avenue. I'm sure that they sell it in all the houseware stores, I would imagine.
It has a big capacity, which is why it's great for doing a full recipe that you can do the mitzvah of challah with, because like a KitchenAid, even if you get the largest, like the 5 or the 6 quart size of a KitchenAid, it's not really big enough to accommodate that amount of flour. But the Magic Mill and the Bosch are.
That's why I switched to the Bosch.
Kitchen Click, right? The Kitchen Click, I think, sells them also. Your local, you can probably buy them on Amazon as well, but it's always something great to have. And making challah, number one, it's cheaper to make challah yourself. All this is about $7 to make 6 challahs, and it's sometimes $5 to $7 for one challah. So you can make yourself, save yourself some money, and you get to do the mitzvah. So, girls, we ready to bake some challah? All right.
Always ready.
Yeah, this is very exciting. I like this part. Let's just talk to Elisheva.
She's just excited that she only has one batch to make.
Exactly, just one this week.
Joining us at the table, my mother's who's visiting us. No camera for my mum. She's too shy. But Mum, you can speak up into the microphone. So hi, Mum.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
In America, do you hear her Australian accent? Do you guys think she sounds Australian?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go, Mum. My mum actually lived in Israel.
I'm Israeli, but I've lived in Australia most of my life.
So, yeah. So, Mum is here and she's going to join us. Elisheva, tell me about a little bit quickly about your business and your Instagram. You have so much fun with it.
I have a blast with my Instagram. It makes it so easy to it's instant, right? Instagram, you take a picture, you post it. It's really not my full time. I work full time. I have 3 kids.
But just had a baby. She looks amazing.
I did just 7 weeks. 7 weeks. So this is fun. Getting out. Still out from work. But I love writing. I love writing about food. I have been obsessed with food my whole life. Since I'm 7, making my lunches. I was always that kid that had the fancy lunches and got made fun of, but now it's the cool thing. The little kid, my daughter is 7. She asked me for sushi. I'm like, no, you're 7. You can't bring sushi to lunch. So we're, each raising.
I sent sushi with my kid once for lunch.
My kid would eat sushi for lunch.
Right? So we're raising, the next generation of foodies.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just, I started a blog when I was in grad school, and then I had a baby, and it was 2010. It was hard to keep up with everything, and that's why when Instagram came along, it was instant gratification. You take it, you post it. Nothing I love, I've done, dinners for people. I've done, constantly back and forth on Instagram. Also, questions from people and trying to instruct people, trying to get people to be like not afraid to get into the kitchen, not afraid of experimenting, and everyone's always, so how exactly, you know, measurements, and kind of break that stigma that cooking is like this science.
Right.
I mean, baking is more of a science.
Right.
Kaylin
Right.
knows.
I
I don't
think
love
Kate-
to bake.
Baking is more of a science.
Baking is much
Yeah.
more
So
scientific.
I love, you know, experimenting and, you know, trying to get people to get in the kitchen, because takeout's great. I love takeout. I do it all the time.
Yeah, we love to go out to eat.
But, you
love
know,
cooking.
and getting your kids really, like, since I've had kids, getting your kids into the kitchen, my daughter loves to help. She'll eat something more, you know, more frequently if she helps me make it.
No, I think
And
that's the
just-
big thing with kids.
Yeah.
Is getting them cooking and baking and
That-
we had Shannon on the show last week. The Instagram is the giveaway is still going.
Yeah.
Okay, please keep entering for the
And
giveaway.
she has a
for
picture of her
baking.
son in it. It's,
Daughter.
her daughter, sorry.
Daughter.
It's so cute.
Billy. She was here.
cute.
Shannon
Was she?
actually did the challah bake with us right here in the house.
Did she bring it?
And she bought Billy. She was so cute. She was like, I was holding her in the middle of the
Yeah.
show. It was great.
Yeah.
But we're still doing our giveaway, and you know,
She's amazing.
she's wonderful. And
She's
taught
also
us a
like
lot about
making
baking.
the baking. I just got it, and it's like, I don't love to bake, but she breaks it down, and even you know I went to your challah bake in Halb.
At Halb.
And also just breaking it down for everyone who might not necessarily have made challah before, and just kind of like simplifying things that people think are so difficult.
Yeah, people. It was very nice.
But she does such a great job of.
It's like babka
of
seems so
combining
complicated.
like good bread making techniques with her very, very accessible recipes.
Yeah, accessible recipes. That's the word that we love to use, accessible recipes. So if you are interested in winning a copy of the book, you have to email me, Naomi@nachumsiegel.com. That's all you have to do. If you want, you can follow Naomi Nachman and Shannon.
There's also
But,
cool redo things
yeah.
from it. Like you can use the challah for other stuff.
I love that.
That's a great
Repurposing
tip.
old
That's
challah.
a great tip. Everyone always has leftover challah. It's always French toast, so she has other options
Bread
besides her
puddings.
French toast. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ellie Sheva. All right, Kayla, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I've tried before to see when you're not working
I
so we
know.
can get together to do a show.
It's
And
so
same
hard.
with Ellie Sheva. You're on maternity leave. Your boss lets you switch days. It's a win-win for the Nachum Siegel Network here. Amazing. And my mum even got to be here as well, so that was great.
Perfect.
How's it going?
Oh, it has been a long few weeks.
Right? How many challahs did you make? Do you know? Did you keep track?
Okay, Rosh Hashanah was right around 300.
300 challahs. So could you say first days in Sukkot and second days of Sukkot?
First days of so I only baked before first days of Sukkot. I didn't bake between during Chol Hamoed just because
Kids are home, blah, blah,
it's
blah.
too complicated. And there weren't a lot of days, and I have to work. I work Monday through Wednesday, so this is my second job, or my
Okay.
first job. The other
Yeah.
job maybe is my second job, whatever. So I only baked before first days, but I still had roughly around 300, maybe a little more for Sukkot also. So split between 2 days that I baked, Thursday and Sunday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was intense. And prepping the whole week before, all that fun stuff.
Okay.
And it's
Excellent.
not just baking. You have to buy the ingredients, and then you have to do
Right.
the dishes after.
A lot of
Washing
dishes.
these bowls.
I hate washing out the dough bowls.
I will not
Well-
wash it out until I've soaked it.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah,
soak
can we just
everything.
talk about a tip? Do you have a tip for us all? We're telling everyone make your own challah, but if it's so messy and what tips do you have for sharing to clean up and the counters or this?
So for sure, soak everything when I'm done baking. So my kitchen is just covered in flour. I've got 20 batches of dough that I've just made, and it's it's messy. I take I take my big mixing bowl. I take my Bosch bowl, the mixing bowl, and I take all the pieces out, and I dump everything in the big bowl, and I soak it in hot water, and everything just peels off, and come back to the sink a half hour later after you wipe down the counters and wipe down the flour, and then everything just washes really easy. Or if you have a dishwasher that you can put it in, that
Throw
is
it in the
always
dishwasher. I actually wipe
great.
mine
But
out, throw it in the dishwasher.
I do find that even in the dishwasher, because it's dough, it you want to soak it first and just rinse off the really sticky parts. And
Otherwise
but
it's a
yeah,
nightmare.
soaking it is the best option.
All right.
And lots of Clorox wipes to clean down all the flour off your walls and your counter. That's
Yeah.
yourself. And
True.
yourself.
All right. So Naomi and I are going to start leading off the baking. I'm going to present Naomi with a table for two apron. I think we might have to stand as we get going, and a long me and Naomi is going to be Elisheva and Kayla making challah with us, and then we're going to talk to Kayla about her toppings.
Dude, this is nice.
Yeah, so it's got our table.
Now they're really going to confuse us, though, because there's going to be two Naomis wearing
Two aprons.
Two aprons.
And we both have brown Ashkenazic colouring, brown hair. Yeah, okay. Now our accents are different, though. How fun was that challenge? Okay, if you all saw the Instagram challenge of all the accent thing.
That was cute.
Okay, so let's start off. We need some hot water. Yoni, can you see that jug there? There's a jug and there's a hot water tap on the left. Can you fill that up? Okay, we need another bowl, correct? Right, we're going to get our next bowl out. Okay, and Naomi, okay, we're going to get our next bowl. I'm going to go grab another bowl. Can you talk about the different ingredients?
Yeah, sure.
And while I grab the next bowl. We're co-hosting.
This is a basic challah recipe. So we're using bread flour. If you ever have a recipe that calls for high gluten flour, basically it's the same thing as bread flour. It has a higher content of gluten, which are the protein strands that help make your challah nice and bready and fluffy. As opposed to, say, like pastry flour, which is a low gluten content and keeps your pastry nice and crispy. So this is the opposite. It has a little bit extra gluten for a nice bready feel. Very, very easy. King Arthur is a great flour. Just giving my own little approbation on that. But really, any kind of high gluten bread flour will work. I recommend unbleached, though. That's our flour. We have sugar for some sweetness. We have yeast. This is instant
Sugar.
This is
Sugar?
salt. Sorry, I'm getting it on
some sweetness.
Yeah. This would be way too much anyway. But for our purposes, we're probably how much are we going to use? What, like a tablespoon of salt? 1.5 tablespoons of salt.
I use 1 tablespoon of salt.
Yeah. So instant dry yeast. Some recipes call for fresh yeast, which you would find in the refrigerator section.
I like dried yeast from.
Dry yeast is great for.
Never.
So I started out using, and I quickly sort of converted. Not because fresh yeast is not good. I love using I like the freshness of the taste, but hands down, economics. You're going to get your bang for your buck in terms of what you can get dry yeast.
Yeah, mine lasts a year, and I bet almost every week.
So
I buy a big thing at Costco.
Big thing of Red Star at Costco, and it will last you the whole year, or unless you are Kayla. But it will stretch both in terms of your dollar and your shelf life. But always check your expiration date.
Because yeast is a live, active ingredient. And if your yeast doesn't rise...
You get a pancake.
I say you get matzah.
Yep.
You get matzah. So you want to have fresh yeast. I keep mine in the fridge in a container because I buy those big things from Costco. And too much salt early on, the yeast gets killed. And too much hot water gets killed. So that's why we have a balance of hot and cold.
I've had this question before. How do you know? People probably don't know. Whenever a recipe says, or else if your yeast is dead, replace it. How do you know if your yeast is dead?
Let's proof it. That's why we're proofing.
And then what do you look like? As far as what you're looking for in the bubbles, and you want to make sure that it's
you want it to bubble.
Why don't you answer that, Kayla?
So first of all, what helps the yeast to activate, and obviously
otherwise it doesn't work.
You are an expert on this, is a little bit of sugar. So you mix a little sugar with your yeast and your warm water, and that will help to activate it. And if after 3 to 4 minutes sitting in a solution of warm water and sugar, your yeast does not bubble,
replace it.
Chuck
it out. I say chuck it.
You can troubleshoot a little bit.
Okay.
Like if you see heat expedites, cold retards. That concept take with you with all your bread making, because and the same thing with proofing your yeast. I always say to students, we're going to prove that the yeast is viable. So if after 5 or 8 minutes you see nothing, like no signs of life, before you check it, I always say it can't hurt to put it in a warm spot. If you have a warm spot,
that's actually a great idea. But if you've already got
oven,
warm water. Right, if
did you see Deanie delivers? She just moved to Miami, Florida, and she put her dough outside. It was
shout out to you, Deanie.
She put it outside, and she said Florida weather is perfect for rising, which was I thought was
right. Actually, on Tisha B'Av, I made sourdough and I let it rise outside because it was like a really hot day, and
And the heat. I once was on my way to a challah class. I had 2 batches of challah dough in tow with me, and I didn't have room in the car for it to be in the same place. So I had one batch. Here's a science experiment. I had one batch in the back seat where it was cooler, and one batch was on the floor of the passenger side under the heating vent. So heat was actually, it was a winter.
You got
heat
there?
was actually blowing.
triple
One
the
batch
size.
was double the size. One batch was all the way down.
Okay, ladies, let's get baking. All right. Okay, so let's do our proofing. Let's start off with our proofing. So this is my recipe. Okay, I take 2 cups of hot water from my Instant Hot.
Not boiling.
Not boiling. It's actually from my, so it's about, I don't know, this is under 212, this is for sure. So I take 2 cups of hot water and 2 cups of cold water. So it's actually 4 cups of water. I just want to say you just used 4 cups of regular medium temperature tap water. The magic number for the temperature of the water is about 115 degrees. We do not want the water hotter than 115 degrees. I'm holding up my giant measuring cup to my eye level, and I was looking at the meniscus, that line there, and it's at 4 cups. So I'm putting my 4 cups of water into my giant bowl. And then I put in my sugar. This is the order that I've been doing it for the last 15 years. I don't know if you guys do a different order.
I only do a tablespoon of sugar to proof it, and then I add the rest of the sugar.
Right, so I do mine all at once. 2 cups of sugar. Here, ladies, why don't you, as I do this, why don't you make your dough? Well, Kayla has to make my recipe. You can make your own recipe if you want.
Do you mind?
No, but I'm just going to talk through mine, but you can do whatever you want. Let's see how different hers is.
Do you know it by heart, Kayla?
I think I might remember.
I always say I don't know any recipes by heart except for 2: potato kugel and challah. And now I take 2 tablespoons of yeast, and I'm proofing, which means proving that my yeast is alive. Okay, baby, in you go. It's going to bubble and froth a little bit. Takes about 5 minutes. It might even go faster here because it's quite warm.
Do you mix it at this point, or you just
No, I
leave it?
don't even mix it. I just keep it like this. Is yours very different then?
I don't, like I said, I'd only put like a little bit of sugar first just to give the yeast a snap.
And then you add your sugar in
But
later.
I do try to mix it just to dissolve the yeast so there's no big clumps anywhere.
Right.
But, it's going to end up getting mixed.
Right.
in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes I'll take my finger and I'll give it a little bit of a shake. Oh, so
If any of the viewers are using fresh yeast, just know, I always get this question, the way that it proofs from dry yeast versus fresh yeast, it looks a little different, but the main thing is just that you should see something, foaming or bubbles or something.
See a little action
Gotta
going
see
on.
something
it
happen.
starts like it looks like frothy.
Yeah.
It literally looks like
Like
frothy.
dry yeast typically looks a little more foamy when it's proofing, fresh yeast a little more bubbly.
Okay, now challah is all about the ratios of wet to dry. So you can have less water, more eggs and oil. More oil, less eggs. It's all about. Now, when I did the Sephardi challah bake last year at the Sephardic Center, I had an amazing, amazing time. I had to, when they first contacted me to lead the challah bake, they're like, okay, so what's in your recipe? I said 2 cups of sugar, 3/4 cup of oil. They're like, no, that's mezonot. It had to be.
How much sugar do you use?
And they won't do any sweet fillings.
No. It was 100% like mezonot for them. So I had to learn how to change my ratios for them. So I think I do like 5 cups of water and 2 eggs and half a cup of oil. So I had to raise my water to lower my eggs and oil, and then sugar really is an additive, right? Like, so I could use a half a cup. It was pretty darn good, but not sweet for us. Not so sweet.
And you're definitely leaving out those chocolate chips and raisins. There's
Yeah.
none of
Oh,
that.
I
that's
actually
vodka.
have some Sephardi customers who order my sweet challahs as dessert because they
Yeah.
just will not.
Or you could make hamotzi and then eat it
Right.
later. Oh, thank you, Yoni. Okay, Yoni is helping us. What? We're doing it together. This is
We'll share.
so 4 cups of water, 2 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons of yeast. Are we good? Are we up to that? Elisheva's up to that. Are you guys baking along with us? Let us know. Send us a message. Okay, so here is a public service announcement for the Nachum Siegel Network. We want to see your challahs. So what you're going to do is when you post them on Instagram or the Facebook page, just like when you do it on Facebook, just tag us at Nachum Siegel Network so we can see your challah. But if you do it on Instagram on your own page, hashtag it Challah, CHALLAH, so I can see what you did, and then we'll also share your challah around your
send
picture.
them direct message. If they're private, then we
if you are a private account, you can direct message us to the Nachum Siegel Network because we'd love to see what you're making. It doesn't even have to be this week. It can be any week, and you can also send me questions as well. I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so we got a little frothing action going over here. Can we zoom in on the camera? Oh, look at Kayla. She got some serious frothing action here.
I use a little bit more yeast in mine than you do.
How
so
much?
So I put 4 tablespoons of yeast.
4 tablespoons.
Versus
See,
2
and I have
tablespoons.
2, right? Isn't that amazing? What kind of flour do you use when you do yours?
I use a
High gluten?
flour.
Okay.
I love the King Arthur.
I love King Arthur flour.
King
It's
Arthur.
pure, clean, good stuff. It's not mixed with any, I don't know, whatever else they put in challahs, but in high gluten. But I heard
makes
this
the
is
nicest.
really, really
It's a great
good.
quality flour.
Yeah.
Right, so Gourmet Glatt sells it. You can buy it on Amazon or at your local kosher supermarket or regular supermarket around the globe. Okay. All right, so now let's get started on our second part, which is our eggs and our oil. So I have eggs for checking, and then we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of oil. So why don't we start cracking our eggs? And I realize I need to get some more bowls. They're right here. You know, you plan, and then like you're something you figure out that you're missing.
I think we could.
Okay, so in here goes, in this bowl, 6 eggs and 3/4 a cup of oil. Okay?
It's 6 eggs per recipe.
6 eggs per recipe and 3/4 of a cup of oil. You hear me banging around my kitchen. You know, Okay, that's for you, and that's for you. We always check our eggs. It's a big Masorah that we have in our religion, that we always check for our blood spots. Okay, and we use clear cups. I'm just going to grab some plastic forks for everyone to mix our eggs and our oil together.
Naomi, I'm actually
Yes.
very excited to try your challah because I have never, in all the years I've known you, I have never had your challah.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
Yay. Parshat Noach, everyone was busy with their rainbow challah. A couple
Yeah.
years ago, I sold rainbow challahs.
remember that.
Yeah, I
usually-
made some.
usually
I made
sell
some
rainbow
dough.
challah, but this year I could not.
A little side money there. Okay, so everyone's going to scramble their eggs and their oil, mix them together. So I usually do this part while it's proofing. Can't wait to do the fillings with Kayla.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
Okay. Soon we're going to get down and dirty. I love this part. Kneading it on the table is great. Okay.
You should.
6 eggs, 3/4 a cup of oil. My
should
small
talk about-
measuring cup went missing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Does that
here's
happen
this.
to you guys?
Always.
Yeah.
I just break them. Nothing fits in my cabinet, so they fall out and break.
So let's aim for 3/4 of a cup. I don't know where my measuring jug went. But we're going to use the giant one unless I can grab, I can grab my parva one. Here, we'll use my parva one. This parva one.
We'll see how accurate I'm guesstimating. Oop, too much.
Actually, okay. That's fine. Pour it in. Okay. Okay, keep going, ladies. All
I'm
right.
going to follow your method with the. I usually add ingredients in a different order, but I'm going to do how you.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious to see. Well, you'll be curious to see.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how curious you'll be about my challah order. Okay. Okay. You don't have to go crazy. She's going. She is beating those eggs. Okay. So 3/4 of a cup. Are you doing your recipe?
I'm making my recipe. Is that allowed?
Oh yeah. Right. So how many eggs did you put in there?
Only 2.
2 and a cup of oil. Okay. So we spoke about the wet to dry.
Yeah.
So that
So this-
my extra eggs is making up for your oil.
Exactly.
Okay. And you how much water?
It's the same 4 cups of water.
Okay.
And the same 2 cups of sugar. But
Okay. Interesting. See, her balance is different. Okay. And believe it or not, we're almost halfway done with a challah. This is the fun part.
By the way, you can use these different. Oh, sorry. You can.
Into the mic.
Sorry, into the mic. You can also use these different ingredients in terms of part of your spiritual things to pray for. Each of the ingredients represents different significant things that we can pray for. Yeast, for example. The Hebrew word for yeast is shmarim, meaning from the word shomer, to protect.
I feel like it's Rosh Hashanah where we're talking about all
but
that.
but it's a great opportunity to daven, to pray and say, you're adding in your yeast, say, please God, grant us protection. And also protect my challah. Make sure it comes out well.
Yes. You know what? Whenever my husband makes hamotzi and he's about to cut the challah, I'm like, hurry up. I want to see how good the challah is inside. Like, it's always that pressure. And he's slicing it up until he takes the first bite. I'm like, waiting. And it's like every time. Because every time you make challah, it's different.
yeah.
I find, even different parts of the room where it rises, it tastes different. When I used to work in sleepaway camp, and I used to teach challah baking, which I now do at Camp Shoshanim, the kids on one side of the room would have completely different dough texture than the other side of the room, depends where the air conditioning units are.
And the humidity.
And the humidity of
sure.
Where the ovens were in relationship to where they were kneading the dough. It's unbelievable. Okay, so now we're going to take our eggs and our oil and we're going to put it in our yeast mixture. Just dump it in. Actually, this happens really fast at home when you're not talking to, a live audience and, on camera. Okay, so everything goes in. See, she's doing hers in a different order.
I mix in half my flour first.
And then that goes. Say that again.
I just mix in half my flour first because I find that it's easier than just for me. I find it's easier to incorporate all of that flour, like not to do it all at once. So I'll do half the
interesting.
flour, then I add the rest of my wet ingredients, which is the eggs and oil and the salt at that point, and then I add the rest of my flour.
That's okay. Different technique. So over here, let's recap over here. 4 cups of water, 2 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons of yeast. We let it proof for 5 minutes. In that 5 minutes, I'm cracking 6 eggs, 3/4 cup of oil, mixing it, pouring it into the yeast mixture. That's it. That's what we're up to. All right. I'm just scraping a little bit from the bottom. The sugar.
Get
at
that
the bottom.
sugar incorporated.
I'm going to start mixing that in. This is when I turn on my machine at this point at home, or
So I actually do it different. If you're doing it by hand, I'll actually do a well of the flour, and I'll make a well in the center, and then into the center go the wet ingredients.
So I put everything in my bowl when I do it. Okay, now I add in half the flour.
No, in the bowl. I do it in the bowl.
Oh, in the bowl. You make the
Yeah.
well in the bowl. I make a
Yep.
well on the counter when I make my pasta. Remember we had that pasta
And
party?
then you start running after it as the well collapses and it starts dripping out the side, and
you have
start
to
running
work fast.
Yeah.
1 tablespoon of kosher salt. I only ever use kosher salt. I never, ever, ever use table salt. It's a whole conversation for another day. I've spoken about this before. Kosher salt all the way. 1 tablespoon goes in. If you add the salt in too early, the yeast dies. Salt is a yeast killer. And then you'll have matzah and not challah. Fluffy challah. So now it's halfway. I'm mixing. This is not brain science. This is just simple, easy fun. And, I have a lot of daughters, guys. You all know that. Their job is to braid the challah when they get home from school. But today it will be my treat.
And if you have no patience to braid, you could always do a pull-apart challah.
Pull apart challah. And I'm going to learn to braid from Kayla and to fill my challah. We're going to make filled challahs in a minute. Yoni, what's my time frame? We're going to have 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, excellent. So this is going to be a bit of a supersized show today. And I'm doing it with a plastic spoon. Okay, now's the time to get down and dirty. I'm just going to take my ring off. Okay.
One of the Naomis should explain why you should use the doing hafresh challah with the 5 pound bag of flour.
Oh yes, why don't you take that away?
You're probably
Naomi?
better at explaining.
You explain that why I'm doing 5 pounds, because I don't necessarily need 6 challahs for Shabbos.
Right. So
please you do that while I mix. I got flour on you. Sorry.
Brushes right off.
The apron.
I always miss the apron, by the way. I should really just cook in a hazmat suit.
While you talk, I'm going to just kind of incorporate all the wet and dry and start making the dough.
You know you have your opportunity to knead. And by the way, you can do what you want in terms of any tefillos or any prayers you want to say at this time when you're kneading. But you know when you can stop using your spoon when it's just too hard to mix, and then you can take over to knead by hand like Naomi is doing.
Okay,
in
so
terms
take
of,
that away.
In terms of the amounts, halachically, meaning according to Jewish law, there's a certain minimum that you need in terms of the weight of the flour to be able to do the mitzvah. And there's a range. There's, I would say, I think below 4 or 5 cups of flour, you don't separate the dough, you don't make a blessing. Above that, there's a range, I think from 6 to 9 cups of flour, you would separate but not with a blessing. And then above 9 or 10 cups of flour, between I think 10 and 15 cups or more, you would definitely tithe the dough, meaning you're going to separate a little piece of the dough. Less than what we call a kazayas, meaning less than a certain volume that is about an egg's worth, a little less than that, so we don't waste the dough. You're going to separate that and make the blessing. Naomi's going to...
I've already turned my dough upside down. I've already kneaded. What?
I'm going to trade bowls with you.
Do you want me
why don't we
do you want me to flour the table for you?
No.
You're good?
Yep. See what I'm doing? I'm just kneading my dough. And I'm thinking about Shalom Bayin, and I'm thinking about nachas from the children, and I'm thinking about all my sick, like people that I know that are sick, that they have refuah, and Hashem should keep
people who need a shidduch.
People who need a shidduch, always about that. And all the mitzvahs I want, and parnasa, and good health for all my friends, and Mashiach to come. And all those things go through my head when I light my Shabbos candles. And when I make chad, look how quick and easy that was. I did that basically in one.
And you can actually, when you're thinking about all these nice ideas for other people, you can say and attribute it to this mitzvah of hafresh challah, that, please, in the merit of this mitzvah, have in mind, please, that it should be for a full recovery for, so-and-so.
Right. We're going to actually do the hiratzon, the bracha and the hiratzon now, because then we have to start with our filling. So we're running out of time, people. How crazy does this show go? It goes so fast. No, we're done with that. My mum's so good. She's like helping us get organized and cleaned up.
Naomi, you're like a master kneader. She turns it. She rotates the dough. She gets to different parts of it.
And I want it to be just... I don't like flouring the table because it changes the dough.
So my trick for that is that I don't add all my flour. I save about, I reserve out of the 5 pounds. Trick. I take about 2 cups out of it for the specific purpose of adding it back in at the end if I need it.
Oh, okay, that's a great idea. I'll pan my table.
I'll
pan my table.
Oh,
okay.
Saran wrap your table. That's another thing you can do.
Yeah, but then I feel like it'll come up.
Or you could put like a plastic on.
Or you just Windex it, or tell your kids, clean the table up. I mean that way. I have to help out too. Okay, so here we have our first batch of dough ready. So now I'm going to need that so you can get working on this. Okay. Because you want to bring over the toppings. Yeah. Elisheva, that looks amazing.
I'm not quite there. I forgot to leave some flour.
Okay, so but there's a little bit more flour. So why don't, Kayla, I'm going to need Kayla. Now, did you all catch, if you're watching us on the Nachum Segal net on YouTube video today or any other day, I am kneading the dough. Now, what is different about my dough to Kayla's dough, besides the amounts, because she's used her recipe, she added in dried cranberries that she rehydrated in some water. Naomi Ross actually rehydrates her in some rum or something. bourbon.
Yeah.
Hello.
Any alcohol will do.
Any alcohol will do.
alcohol will do.
That should be a song. Any alcohol will do. Okay, I think it's like any dream will do, right? Okay. And then she also added in some chopped. I'm getting like my hair caught, my shades are caught in my microphone.
Pecans
Okay.
or pecans?
Pecans. What do we say in Australia? Pecans.
However Naomi says it.
Yeah, that's right. It's my kitchen today. Okay, so I have Kayla's dough with the rehydrated cranberries and the pecans. Okay, what's next, Kayla Kay?
Okay, so we're going to do a roasted garlic stuffed challah.
Yum.
And we are going to...
My house smells amazing. You had me at garlic, peeps.
We are going to top that with some fresh rosemary and sea salt before it goes in the oven.
Okay, let's do
So
it.
yummy.
Just a knife to cut the dough up.
Knife right here.
Break it apart. It tends to damage.
Or I have this one. Global knife. Shout out to Global. Which one's better?
They're all good.
Okay, they're all good.
I'm just going to take a portion of this. Oh, wait, we have to take our challah first.
Oh, yeah, everyone has to make the bracha. Naomi, why don't you lead us?
Before you start separating into portions for your dough, that's the time that you're going to want to make your bracha and separate a piece. So while it's still whole, that's the right time to separate it. Whether before or after you let it rise, I usually let mine rise for 2 risings.
Mine rises for 2 hours. So now we would put this in the bowl. We would cover it.
That's right.
Say, see you in 2 hours. Go make
and
soup. Go make
even
chicken.
you
Go
can
get a
oil it.
manicure. Whatever.
You can oil the dough even.
I don't even do that.
I just for a little lubrication, I'll put a little smear of oil on it, let it rise for 2 hours, punch it down. I actually give it a second rising, punch it down, and then just helps make it elastic.
Okay, good.
Then you're going to
Okay.
you're going
Let's
to
do
make
it.
the blessing. Okay, are you going to make the blessing?
Naomi, why don't you lead us in that?
You go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to make the blessing on the challah. I'm going to separate a piece, and then you make a declaration that this is the dough you're separating, and there is an optional yihiratzon, like a prayer that you can say as an optional nice thing. Very beautiful. If you have the time, I recommend it. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivenu lahafrish challah min ha'isa.
I actually hold mine in my hand when I do it.
Harei ze challah. Right, this is the dough. This is the dough that we are separating. You're going to take this. You're going to put it in a separate place, away from everything else, so it doesn't get added back in or thrown out. And you are going to burn it wrapped in tin foil in your oven or on your stovetop.
I keep mine in my freezer till Erev Pesach, and I throw it in with my chametz in the fire at the Woodmead fire station. That's a big Hasidic minhag.
It is a big one.
So every year I know how many times I made challah because I have a dough ball thing, and I always have the rainbow one. There's always one like that's blue.
That's funny.
The main thing is make sure that you know where it is and that you have designated it, and that
last week's.
Make sure that you do something with it, that it should get burnt and disposed of.
You want a rolling pin?
Do you have one?
I have a rolling pin. Oh, this is fun.
Okay.
Okay, we got it. We got to move along, ladies.
Okay, so we're gonna just quickly do this. I'm gonna. Do you want to bring out the recipe? And take a piece of the challah dough that you can portion it out into however many you want. I usually portion mine out into six pieces of dough, six challahs.
Okay, I also do that. Okay, good.
And then I take my one challah that I'm ready to make, and I separate it into 3 pieces. And then I'm going to take that rolling pin, and I'm going to roll it out. So you kind of want to like elongate it a little bit. And I'm just going to roll it out, and we're going to stuff it.
Oh, stuff it with garlic.
Stuff it with garlic.
Save some extra for after for smearing on your challah.
Definitely a favorite of my family's and mine. Okay, so we spread it out, roll it out into like a long, wide strand like this.
We don't need this anymore, right?
No, I think we're done with that.
Okay,
take a few pieces of your roasted garlic, and you just put it right inside your dough like that. You can put as much or as little as you like. You don't want to overfill it, because if you overfill it, then it just takes too long to bake, and then the top tends to burn.
Can I try garlic plain?
Yeah, of course. And then
So you roll it in from the side.
yeah, so then I
long way.
exactly. Then I roll it long way so that it makes a strand.
This tastes like sugar. It's so sweet. It's crazy.
Okay, so now we have one strand of our dough stuffed with garlic, and I'm going to do that with the other 2 strands, and then we braid it.
Okay. And then what other things should I bring over? What should I be doing with this?
Okay, so this one, because we mixed the cranberries and the dried cranberries and the pecans into the dough, we don't need to stuff that one. That one's just got, a nice fall flavor to it with the cranberries and the pecans. Yeah. And then right before it goes in the oven, I have a pecan streusel topping that I sprinkle on top, and it gives it a nice crunchy, sweet topping.
That. Is that over here? Should I grab?
Yeah, you can grab.
There's pecans in and also on top.
Yes, pecans in and on top. The craisins I don't put on top because I find that they burn. But the craisins inside. Yes, that is that.
Oh,
so yummy.
So I will work with garlic, and you guys can work with pecans and craisins. And
you can do it here, Naomi. You can work on.
Yeah,
there's
more
you guys make
dough.
the garlic. Elisheva, you can.
I was just holding her mic.
Oh,
That's okay.
okay. So now.
Okay, she's going to keep stuffing. I'm going to keep talking. We switch places a bit. Is that annoying, ZK? I'm sorry. Okay, but it's a little. Can I ask you a question? It's a little bit hard to roll. Like it's splitting. Is that because
you probably just need it a little longer.
You need to knead.
You need to take the time to knead. We don't have so much time to knead today.
No, because we're on camera.
Take the time when you have the time and knead your dough until it becomes a really nice smooth.
It's also didn't rise for 2 hours, Elisheva.
That's right. We would normally let this rise first and then do the braid.
So maybe just do one or 2, and then you can take the rest home and have fun at home with it.
The rest of this we should put into a bowl to proof.
Yeah, we will do that.
Once it rises, it gets.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Fluffier, it's not as sticky.
This is so fun. Okay.
Does the rosemary?
We need a mic. So wait, guys, mics.
Oh, it's here.
Okay, just pick it up. It's okay.
We all have dough on our hands. So the rosemary, I do put a little bit of rosemary in with my garlic when I roast it. I just wrap the garlic. I buy the big bag of cloves from Costco.
Yeah, I do that too.
And then you can keep it in your freezer when you're done roasting it. So I roast the whole bag. I put it onto a baking sheet lined with aluminum foil. I drizzle a little olive oil. I put a couple sprigs of rosemary inside the pouch, and then I make a little pouch out of the foil, and I just bake it at 375. I check it every half an hour.
You can use this as a dip also.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you can add a little more oil if you want to really braise it, but
this is
as much or as little as you like. And then it bakes for about 45 minutes or so to an hour, depending on how much garlic is in your pouch. And then that's it. And then I also add the rosemary on top, but that kind of infuses a little bit of rosemary flavor into the garlic itself.
Okay, so here's my 3 strands for my pecan.
Cranberry.
Yeah. So now I just braid it like a regular braid. I always braid with 6.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the lechem hapanim on the?
That's why. And there's 2 loaves. There's 2 loaves on your table. So there was 12 lechem hapanim. Right. There's 12 showbreads in the temple. So if you have your 6 strands and your 6 strands, and there's 2 loaves, you have your
the lechem hapanim.
Exactly.
I let that.
I just want to say I love your explanation of everything today. I've been baking challah now since. This is 4 years, going on 4 years, and I've never heard such a beautiful explanation of why we do it and the meaning behind the mitzvah. It's really very enlightening, very appropriate for this Shabbos project.
That's why we're here. I love the idea of the Shabbos project, and we're not going to get into it right now. But around the world, I love that everyone's eating together and spending Shabbat time together for Shabbat. Okay. We're going to keep going with our challah bake, and I love the fact that the Shabbos project brought along the challah bake. Yeah. That so many women.
Powerful.
It's
so
unbelievable.
Powerful to have that many women
making challah
and making the bracha in one room.
I love it.
It's gives me the chills actually.
Right, it's amazing. Even now, coming up to it. Okay. Right now, I have parchment paper. Parchment paper is my best friend in the kitchen. This is actually, shout out to Geffen. I love how they have it with a slide. Look at this. Ta-da! Thank you, Geffen. I love it. Okay, so it stops. My pans are very old and beat up, but we like them because it's actually good for food photography.
They're seasoned.
They're seasoned. Okay, so now I'm putting my challah on my... Do I brush this with anything?
So I let it rise just as is. I cover it with a towel, with a clean kitchen towel.
And we're letting it rise.
Let it rise for about 45 minutes, and then I put a little egg wash.
And then
I sprinkle the streusel on top, and the egg wash helps it to stick.
Fine. Got it.
But that's
I'm going to put this Well, I'll just put it here.
This is like the stickiest thing.
Okay, I love it. Amazing.
Okay.
I'm just going to grab a little bit.
Just a simple 3 braid.
Yeah, this is when I do the stuffed ones, I usually only do 3 braids because it's it's a
project.
it's a lot to stuff each one. So I'll do 3, and it really is enough of the filling, because too much of that, then it's really not challah anymore. It's more like,
My dad always says those
focaccia, exactly.
Focaccia, right.
Exactly.
My dad always says overly sweet ones are
Yeah.
too
really,
much.
yeah.
Okay, so I just made a bit of an egg wash. We're going to pretend it's 45 minutes later.
Make a roll out of this one.
Okay. What goes on top of yours over there?
Because I did 3.
Oh, on this one, so on the roasted garlic, I'll do the same thing. I'll let it rise. I will brush it with egg wash, and then I sprinkle it with, I have some fresh chopped rosemary and sea salt that I sprinkle on top. And if you want to add a little more garlic on top, you can. Or if you want to just leave the garlic on the inside, that's good too.
So here I did egg wash, just like this. This is brown sugar and what?
Toasted pecan. So it's
Oh, baby.
yeah.
That looks so good.
You can add more.
So good.
More?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You want it to be like
Be generous.
to crisp up nicely on the top.
What goes in your streusel?
It is, I'm going to say a bad word that Naomi doesn't like.
Okay, you ready? Wait for a go.
Margarine. There is margarine in it, because I just find that oil doesn't give it the same.
It doesn't.
And if you're making something dairy, you can of course use butter, and brown sugar and a little flour. So mix brown sugar, flour, margarine, a little salt.
Let's get this finished.
You could use the coconut oil.
Yeah, you could use coconut oil. That's true.
I've
There's
actually
so
used
many
coconut oil in my
substitutes that you
challah.
can use.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so this one here, we're going to egg wash it.
I got to manage the show, right, Yoni?
You egg wash. I'll
Okay.
get the rosemary and the sea salt to sprinkle
Okay,
on top.
this is a bit of a supersized show today, right here at table for 2 on my table for 6. My family kitchen table right here today. Nachum Siegel Network is not on the Lower East Side, it's in Woodmere, and we're really excited to be here. And thanks to Moom and Nachum for putting this together for me, and to really Yoni and DK for coming out here. Big schlep to come to the 5 towns, but we're really grateful. I'm really grateful that you guys were able to make this happen. And to you guys, that looks beautiful. Can we snap some pictures of that? We'll snap some pictures. Show us your challah that you make. Hashtag it Challah, CHALLAH NSN. We want to see your challah. Maybe we should have a prize.
Yeah.
Let's have a prize. We're going to come up with a prize for the prettiest challah that you send us a picture of. Yoni, we're going to have to think of something good.
Nice braiding counts.
Nice braid. Oh, but some people are clumsy like me and don't do the
I just do
nicest
the balls.
braiding.
The balls.
Balls, yeah, whatever. Just send us.
Whatever.
We'll take it all into account. All right, great. All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
All right, so what are we going to put in next? Because I see we had a lot of toppings.
Yeah, so I have a lot of toppings. So should we do za'atar?
Yeah, let's do za'atar.
Okay, grab a za'atar. I'm going to move this.
Oh my God, you really have a lot of toppings.
Yeah, well, we can always
I'm
play.
going to bring them all
them all.
over,
We'll show
and that
them.
way everyone can see what's going on.
Naomi, can I open this flower?
Does this have garlic inside?
Yes, you. Oh, well, I've actually got an open flower.
Regular.
I don't know.
This has garlic.
Here, here, I have an open flower. This is. Oh, fun! Look at all these toppings. This is what?
So this is a cinnamon streusel. So it's the same streusel as the pecan one, except I don't put the pecans in, and I add a little bit of about a tablespoon of cinnamon to this one, so it has that nice aroma. And what you can do is you can take your dough and you can roll it in cinnamon sugar, which is what I like to do. And I have some cinnamon sugar on the other counter over there. And then after you braid it, you do the same with the topping. You egg wash it and you sprinkle the crumb topping on top. So that's like a really fun, another fun sweet one. And then the za'atar is one of my favorites. We take our dough, just like we do, I was saying, with the cinnamon sugar, rolling it in cinnamon sugar. We roll it in za'atar and then sprinkle more za'atar on top and a drizzle of olive oil. And when you bake it, it just like crisps up so
It must
beautifully,
smell just like the sugar.
and it smells amazing. And if you love za'atar, like I love za'atar, it is so good. With a little hummus, it is perfect. It's perfect. So that's a favorite. And then this, of course, is your everything seed topping that you can find
at most every kosher store now has a multiple brands that make it. You can buy it at Trader Joe's, the everything bagel topping. I happen to make my own mixture, but you can do whatever you like. And this is
I like
just
the
a
mixture
nice
that you can buy in the jar.
salty, garlicky, seedy topping that you can throw on top as well.
I just want to say, because there's obviously savory toppings, there's sweet toppings. It's dessert, but my family loves sweet. I love the savory.
Me too.
But Chani from Busy in Brooklyn has a bunch of sweet dips that she created for her blog, because she's the same way and her family likes the sweet, and you can't dip crumb challah in like
Garlic oil.
You would
dip
be
or-
surprised.
I don't like it. Even so she created like a bunch of sweet dips.
You can check her out at busyinbrooklyn.com.
It's, like, great, because you don't want to dip. Well, I don't want to dip my sweet crumb challah in like olive dip and. I
So
don't know.
I'll peel the topping
That's what
off
I do, and I give it to my
and eat
daughter.
the topping, or give it to my daughter or whoever, and then use the rest. If you don't stuff it, if it's just a plain challah with a crumb topping, then you can use the balance for your
Right.
savory dips.
We call it the challah graveyard in
Okay.
my family, because my kids like the middle and I like the crust. All the crust get thrown into the graveyard in the middle, and I like crust.
Oh.
So then I'll take the crust and use
Do you
that.
ever have like a hollowed out challah that like it looks like,
A whole challah.
but it's actually empty inside?
Empty. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be like my choice of challahs to eat and dip all these amazing things. I've actually made a challah, and then we're gonna end the show. I actually made a challah once. I braided it in the round, and then I put in the middle. I wrapped it around a ramekin condition, baked it.
Did you see those?
I did that
So then
last year, Rosh Hashanah.
I put
that with the
in
honey?
Oh, like
Yeah.
honey.
a dip
saw
or
those.
honey in the center of the challah. My husband was like, "How am I supposed to cut this?" I'm like, "You'll figure it out." So I kind of lifted up for the cutting part, but it was a really cool presentation when you do that dramatic lifting off the challah cover, and then there's this really funky challah with a dip in the middle on the ramekin. So.
A lot of people did that for Rosh Hashanah with
Right.
the honey.
Right. We're all about the drama.
Yeah.
So, ladies, why don't you continue rolling? I'm going to wrap up the show. We're going to
Sounds
braid
good.
here probably about
When you
18
do When
colours.
you do the zatar, you put some down like
Yeah, I
this.
Okay.
put some za'atar on the table, or I'll put it in a long foil pan even, and just roll it in the za'atar. So you could do it either way, and then after you braid it and you're ready and it rises, then you sprinkle a little more za'atar on top. Would you egg wash, a little more za'atar, and then the olive oil.
I love it.
There's like
Absolutely.
no end. You could
There's
do
no
it.
end.
There is really no
I
end.
did in the summer pesto.
I do. I
was-
try to be seasonal. So in the summer, I do a pesto with sun-dried tomato tapenade. I make a s'mores challah stuffed with marshmallow fluff, and it's a lot of fun.
It was that very much like a babka.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
that one, yeah. And so many options. You can do, there's so many pretzel challah I make. There's so many savory and
good
sweet.
pretzel challah. Shout out to Yoni's pretzel challah. Remember when Yoni
Yes,
came on the show?
That's the best.
We had Yoni on the show
That's
from.
so good.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much. These ladies are going to continue to roll. These are the colours that we so far have made. I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope everyone has an amazing year. Amazing Shabbos this coming week, with connecting with Shabbos, with their guests, with everyone. This is Table for Two with Naomi Nachman on the Nachum Siegel Network. Stay tuned. Mark Zomick is coming up with music, and then with the Erev Shabbos music show, and then we have music then sponsored right up by Tzlich Benching, sponsored by our friends at Kedem. Wishing you all good Shabbos, a good week, and we got a couple of amazing shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned also for our Kosher Fest show. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, from the Nachum Siegel Network. Happy cooking, happy challah baking.